This is Main Street with Gary Allen. Now, here's Gary.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Main Street. Gary Allen, your host for this afternoon. Hope everybody's had a great time since the last time we connected. I hope everybody's having a great week. I hope everybody's well within their own family. I just would like to say to all of you out there, I hope peace is flowing among us these days. We certainly do need a little more often. I want to, first of all, thank the Japanese Gardens of South Florida for their continued support of this particular program, along with the Elks Lodges of South Florida for their continued support. Without them, we couldn't get this done. And of course, my executive producer, Mr. Rick Del Vecchio, who was on with us last week talking about the new apartment complex down in South Florida for veterans, which is something very close to my heart. Today, we have actually so far two guests. Now, there may be a third one once we get rocking and rolling here. But the first guest that I want to introduce to you now is Chris DePetta. He's the owner and partner in the Punchline in Atlanta. Excuse me. I want to say Atlanta. And Chris is also Billy Gardell's manager. But Chris has been in the comedy game for so many years, and he's from Cleveland originally. He's also one of my dear friends. You know, folks, every once in a while in this business, you get to meet some really good people. The gentlemen that are on this program today are dear friends of mine. They're always there for me when I need to have somebody on this particular program. And Chris DePetta is certainly one of them. The next gentleman I want to introduce to you is a gentleman that I met when I first got started in comedy. His name is Glenn Hirsch. He's an actor. He's a writer. He's a producer. He's also written a book called Peanuts on the Bar. Let me get my light on here. A Stand-Up Life. He's also one of the funniest gentlemen in the world. He was also one of the kindest when I first got going. You know, comedians can be, as Chris will attest to, comedians can be kind of a bit down on the new people walking in the room. But Glenn Hirsch was one of the few that was great. Rich Schneider was also great to me. And we're also expecting today Mr. Will Shriner, who's been on this program many, many times. We're hoping that he's going, there he is. That writer, producer, actor, bon vivant, man about town, newly married, Will Shriner. Hey, buddy.
This show is overbooked. This show is way overbooked. You don't need me.
I need you.
You got Chris the Legend.
I'm
you
going to
got
step
Glenn
out
the
now.
Legend.
Oh, well.
Sitting here retired.
No. Hey, anytime I can get you on, Shriner, it's, it is what it is. I asked Chris this before the program, and I'm just going to say this now to all of you out there that may not be aware of this. We all are friends with Jay Leno. And Will, I don't know, when was the last time you spoke to Jay? Recently?
We've been texting back and forth, but I haven't actually physically spoken to him because I lost his number.
Yeah, I don't have it either anymore. But anyway, when you do text him, would you please send my prayers to he and Mavis, and especially to him, if there's anything we can do. But our prayers go out from the.
No, he's doing good. He's got a good attitude about it, and Mavis is a sweet lady, and they'll get through it. Did
you ever meet a nicer woman than Mavis? I mean, really?
She's very sweet. And they were just at the Unfrosted premiere, and she was there, and she's when you have that affliction that she has, it doesn't preclude you from doing stuff. You just kind of, you're like me when I was 20. You're a little kind of out of it. Like when I first met Chris, he was running a little dump in the Atlanta area, right?
Yeah. And now,
okay, just so you know, it's still there. A different place.
Is it still there? It's not the same location where you would.
It's worse.
I don't know if Glenn ever worked there, but that house you put us up in was, just close to.
No, Glenn worked there.
Even homeless people turned it down.
That
was a fun place. That was a fun club. That was one of the first, and a good time was had by all. That was the Sandy Springs Club. It's a memory.
Yeah. Okay, now I'm going to bring up
to the club. That was the benefit of having it.
I'm going to bring up another memory that Chris has probably got to fill in the blanks, according to Glenn. Talk about the bomb scare, and Mr. Hirsch was on stage.
Glenn, you remember that?
I don't, Chris. I swear to you, I don't remember. Gary told me this, but it probably had something to do with just probably Jews in Atlanta. It was a Jew Atlanta thing. It was,
Glenn had bombed so many times they call him in all the time.
thank you very much. We opened that door. We opened that door.
Like Shriner's never bombed, right?
Hey,
Not recently.
I'm going to tell you the story. Here's what happened. Glenn's on stage, okay? Dave and Ron were gone, okay? They went to a fight somewhere, pay-per-view fight. So I'm running
starting
the show.
one or seeing one?
Yeah, they're seeing one. They've
Okay.
started. Well, anyway, well, Glenn's on stage, okay? We get a phone call. We had thrown somebody out, okay, of that show, okay? And apparently he was upset. We were doing 3 shows that night, and it's the middle show, okay? So it's the 9 o'clock show, and we're almost at the end. We threw somebody out. He apparently ran to a phone booth and made a phone call to the police saying that there was a bomb at the punchline, and it's going to go off in an hour, okay?
Wow.
So the bomb's going to go off in an hour. Now, the feature act was on stage when we got the call, but they were just announcing Glenn to go on stage. So being the scum club owner and manager that I was at the time, I'm thinking to myself, Glenn's only going to do about 45 minutes. I could probably clear the building, within 5 minutes. So I wait about 10 minutes. I go on the side, where the green room was on the side. Okay.
Yeah.
I go out there. Glenn's doing his bid. He's on there. He's about 15, 20 minutes in. And I'm going psst, psst, from the side door. And Glenn initially didn't hear me. Then all of a sudden he turns and looks at me, and I go, come here, man, come here. And I said, I don't want you to freak out or anything, but we just got a phone call. Said there's a bomb in the building, but it's not going to go off for about an hour or so. So you could probably do another 20 and get off stage. And Glenn's looking at me like, there's a bomb, and so he turns around, goes back to the microphone, and he tries to do a joke. He does about maybe 2 minutes and then goes, well, I'm going to wrap it up. And he gets off stage. I mean, he did about 20 minutes, okay? Gets off stage. So in the interim, the cops are all surrounding the building outside. Now, the bomb squad's there. Everybody's outside the parking lot. The third show, people are around the side of the building waiting to get in. So we tell everybody, it's kind of quick. You need to get out of here fairly quickly. Didn't tell them there was a bomb in the building or anything. So we let everybody out of the building. Now we got about 25 minutes to go before supposedly a bomb's going off. So the police come in, they scour it, they bring dogs in, they look around, check it out. It's no big deal, no bomb, no nothing. It's okay. And then, of course, I said, okay, we good? And the police goes, yes, okay, ready, open the doors for the third show. And we let the third show. But that was our night.
Stop coming.
Never missed a ball at the door, okay? That was
man.
Oh,
well,
God,
see, I'll be honest with you. That happened to me weekly at every comedy club I went to. So this is just the one in Atlanta.
I said that.
I don't know. It followed me around the country for years.
That's not the truth.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh God. Oh God. That's
well,
bizarre. Yeah. Well, Shriner did that many times while we were playing softball. He would strike out. Oh, I gotta go home, guys. But it's the 5th inning. Will, I know I gotta go home. I got somebody home. I gotta go home.
You must be thinking of another Shriner.
No, not Ken. Not Ken, because I don't think Ken ever showed up to watch us play. Did he?
No, he was busy.
I know he's doing General Hospital and stuff like that.
Got a 47.
Congratulations on the new marriage. Okay.
Yeah, I get married every 7 years just for the extra.
I was going to say, is it third time in charm
key,
or fourth time? I'm not sure.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So what is her title? You're a Commodore. So what's her title?
Mrs. Shriner.
There you go.
Well, I know that, but I mean, you're a Commodore with the Fort Lauderdale Yacht Club. What's her title?
Well, she's actually the secretary there. She's the board secretary. She's on the board of directors, and she's a lawyer. She's currently suing me for non-sexual harassment. We're trying to work it. When I told her that, she said, we'll have to try it in the small claims court. And that's what you get a religious girl to do dick jokes, you got something special.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. She's a
you got
keeper.
the right woman.
Does she enjoy
Glenn,
flying?
where are you
Like,
at these days? Are you still in LA?
Yes, I am. I'm
Right.
not in LA right now, but yes, I've been out here for. I've been out here longer than I lived in New York. 40
Yeah.
years now. Well, when did you leave LA?
I left in 2005. I came to Florida to make a movie, and my wife at the time, another previous wife, said, "What are we doing in LA? Let's go to Florida." So we moved down here in 2005.
That's so right, man. You have no real estate tax. I love you. I love you for it.
We have no income tax. We
No income
2% real estate still, and
Yeah.
but it's a great
God.
town. And we got a tough governor who's not putting up with any crap, and that's what I do like about him.
Right.
And he's not letting them protest at the schools. He's not letting them do anything.
yeah.
And,
Well, my old school, they wouldn't know how to protest anyway. University of Miami, all we do is party. I mean, they don't know how to protest.
Yeah,
well, I went to UCLA. It's a shame what they did to UCLA. They've defaced
Oh.
Royce Hall. It's a crime. I mean,
Yeah.
I hope
ridiculous. That's not how you
Well,
protest.
when I was living in LA, I went to UCLA too to finish up. But it's a shame. I mean, and these kids, they have no concept as to what
Right.
Hamas is, what the Palestinians are, and as a Jew, I'm PO'd anyway to begin with of what happened October 7th or 6th, whatever the date was. I can't remember, Glenn. But
October
whatever
7th.
Yeah. I'm ticked about that, and the mere fact that they don't even have a clue about the Holocaust. They don't know nothing about the Holocaust. They don't care about the Holocaust. I mean, it's just it's unbelievable. But yeah, at least
let me tell you something, Gary. When Chris and Will, I hate to be getting political, but when they start to say that these demonstrations are very similar to the '60s, I find that, if I can say it, absolute bullshit. Because then we were demonstrating, not me so much, but I just took part because I didn't have to go to class. I was getting out of high school. But we took part to demonstrate against the American government and the draft.
Yeah.
Here, these kids who don't even know why they're demonstrating are demonstrating against another country who needs to get that job done, as far as I'm concerned. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they ought to let Israel go in.
Get out of the way,
and
man.
Get rid of Hamas and get it over with and be done with it. I know if Schreiner was running our Air Force, that would have been done a long time ago.
Yes, that's true.
But then again, he's not. So, I mean, thank God he's not. Which reminds me, Schreiner, here's the question.
I'm
That's
trying to keep my PSA on the floor right now.
Yeah,
Hey, Will, there's one question I've always wanted to ask you. You and I both love flying a lot. I mean, we boo. I flew in the Air Force. Why didn't you? I mean, you had an illustrious career in show business, writer, director, producer on the Tonight Show, 50 times, etc. Why didn't you ever join the military to fly in the military? You love flying
I was
so much.
draft age during Vietnam, so I had a high lottery number, so I didn't get drafted. My eyes are not that great that I could have been in the Air Force. So without the draft calling me up, I didn't go. But I've done a ton of, I'm sure Glenn has, these USO shows where we go out of the carriers and go out in the field and entertain these guys. And I really appreciate and I'm so respectful of what they do for this country. And they get the short end of everything. The veterans
Absolutely
don't even get the benefits that the homeless are getting. I don't know who's running this.
That I don't understand.
Well, Will, you saw the show that I had on last week, which was all about the housing down in Homestead. By the way, I'm originally from Florida, too. Will knows that because we both grew up down there about the same time. But,
I didn't see the show, though. I'm sorry I didn't see the show.
No, it's on. I'll send you the link. And it's a new project, a new apartment complex for homeless veterans and first responders that are having hard luck times, helping them get back on their feet. And if they need to, they can stay there forever. And, it's a new complex down in Homestead, which is great, right near the Air Force Base. So that within itself is pretty great stuff. And yeah, you're right. We're not really taking care of our veterans the way we should, which is as I said during the show last week, and yeah, we're getting a little into politics, which we'll get back to comedy in a minute. It's a national disgrace. We call upon guys like me to serve, to do what we need to do to protect this country. And then when it comes time to the benefits, they go, sorry, see you later. Goodbye. We don't have enough money, whatever the case may be. Anyway, getting back on track for each one of you, for Will and for Glenn. Do you remember the first time?
Let me just say, Gary, I'm so depressed right now. I really am. I need to lie down. So I'll be back in about 20 minutes. I got to take a nap.
Okay.
It's okay. I've reached that age. All right.
Okay. All right. Okay. Listen, just
Will's
don't
worried
snore
about
too
his
loud.
PSA. I got to take a nap.
Don't snore too loud. That's all I
I got
ask.
it.
Just don't. Yeah. Okay. Listen, do you remember the first time you both got on stage? And Chris, do you remember the first time you saw them both on stage when they were first starting out?
Well, I
Well,
mean,
Chris, let me
established.
ask you, Chris, did I meet you in Cleveland at the Cleveland Comedy Club first?
Yeah, you did initially. Yeah, first. You know, that's why.
Yeah,
That's
right.
why.
And then you guys opened up. Then you moved down to Atlanta with Ron and Dave.
Dave. And Dave,
That's what I
not for anything, and I don't want to bring everybody down. Dave just passed away last night.
Did he? Last night?
Yeah, he that was the original one of the original partners of Punchline, and that one he'd been sick for a long time with congestive heart failure, and we lost him last night, and everybody's about that. You know,
Yeah, I'm sorry, man. I'm so sorry.
My prayers go out to his family. My prayers go out to his family.
And then James Gregory last week.
Yeah. Yep. And then Diane
man.
Ford the week before. You know, if I don't know if you knew
Diane Ford. Yes, Diane Ford.
I mean, it's been a rough couple of weeks, man. Wow.
Well,
It's been a rough couple of years. I remember Will and I were talking about this the last time he was on the show. Where what was it? It was like how many 5 or 6 comics passed away all within a 2-year period. You know, I mean, it was
Norm and Saget and Gilbert and so many.
I talked to Bob about 5 months before he passed away, and he was so excited about moving on with this new idea, this new act. He wasn't going to do dirty stuff so much anymore, you know, and he was so excited. He was going to come on with me here on the show, but unfortunately he got busy, et cetera, et cetera. You know how the business is, and the last thing I said to him, I says, "I love you, kid," and he said, "Hey, Gareth, thanks." Because he was also very nice to me when I first came out to LA.
I bumped into him on the street. And he was Bob Saget. We just had a good time. We laughed for 20 minutes, and he, you know, this was a tragic freaking accident. I still, you know, it's.
I know the hotel. Will, you know the hotel. Will, you know the hotel.
I used to say, I said the only thing that would have been worse for Bob if it had been a Holiday Inn.
So,
you know, people would come to me when I was living in Las Vegas, and they'd say, "Hey, he's going to be at the Hard Rock Cafe. I just got tickets for me, my wife, and the kids to see him perform." I said, "Hold it. How old are your children?" They're teenagers. Are they adult teenagers? Are they mature? Or are they like little kids? Why? Because he's not Danny Tanner. He's not Danny Tanner on stage, kids.
Chris, Will, you guys know Saget loved that, man. You just, you know, this beautiful, you know, white collar image, this purity, and then, you know, ripping him up on stage. He loved that attitude, man. The change of seasons, man. He did.
He ate it up. Back to the original question. Will and Glenn, the first time you guys got on stage, what was it, a dare? Was it an amateur contest? Was it something you wanted to do? Now, Will's background, of course, with his mother and father, they were in the business. But how about either one of you want to take it first?
I defer to Will.
All right. Well, you know, it's not that exciting. It was 5 minutes at the Comedy Store in 1977. You know, when Mitzi would, I got on my first time in front of Mitzi, and I got the bow on my first audition because I was showing little kind of newsreel films and stuff, and they were pretty different, and they got big laughs, and that was it. I was hooked. You know, I'd gone to UCLA Film School and was making movies, but I was rather to do them live in a club was really sort of the incentive. So that was, you know, once I started working in the Comedy Store, then I got on at the Improv pretty fast. And then when the Morning Letterman show came along in 80 and I was a regular on that, you know, then it opened up a lot of clubs and, you know, appearances because, you know, as everybody knows, it's all about being on TV to get the asses in the seats. So, I'm trying to think when I first saw Glenn, it must have been at the Improv, right? Or was it the store?
Well, it was at the Improv. I'm sure it was at the Improv in California, in LA, because I started at the Improv in New York. And for me, it was, I was a political science major in college, pretty much pretending to want to be and I might have been one of your next wives, a lawyer, because I thought, you know, that would be, because I thought that's what my father and mother wanted me to be, you know, the Jewish attitude there. And then my father was killed in a car accident when I was 18. And crazy as that sounds, it almost freed me up. And I'm sitting in my college student union, and a friend of mine came by and said, "Hey, Glenn, found the class, Easy A." He takes me to an acting class. I walk in, kids are banging their heads against the wall, jumping off furniture. I said, "Wait a minute, they're getting credit for this? I do this for nothing." So in the next 2.5 years, I was an acting major, theater major, did plays and shows. And then we started, I got together with a group of guys and we started doing improv. We'd hang out in the morning, and marijuana had a lot to do with my journey into show business.
And it always.
We would get high in the mornings and we'd do these bits in the back of the back theater. And one day, college was great, and that these kids that came in, they were in the television department. They were watching us, and they said, "You guys mind if we tape you doing what you're doing?" And we said, "Sure, no sweat." So they did. Then they started showing them in the student union. Then we started getting a following. And the next thing you know, one day a guy comes in and says, "I just booked us in the local comedy club." And this comedy club, I wasn't even thinking about being stand-up. I had just seen Andy Kaufman and David Brenner at this club, ripping them up. And I thought, wow, these two guys standing in the middle of a room, owning the room, how wonderful. But I never thought about being a stand-up. He books us there. We tell everybody, we go, we fill the place up that night with people that knew us. We killed. Next night, guy invites us back, the owner of the club, Epstein, Steve Eppy. Eppy invites us back. We do we go on stage in front of an audience who didn't know us from a hole in the wall, and we freaking, Chris,
nothing.
Another bomb.
Yep.
Another bomb scare.
Yep.
Another bomb scare. The two guys jump off the stage. I'm left standing by myself, and I'm thinking, shit, I'm not giving in. And I did like 5 minutes, and I thought, wow, that was interesting. And then for the next 6 months, I thought, I'm going to try this. And that's how it began for me. And then I went to the Improv in June of 1975. And I did 15 minutes of their, whatever you get, 7 minutes at that time. Stood out online all day, did my 7 minutes, was invited the next day back. Bud was just about to move out to L.A.
Yeah.
And he came in to see me and invited me back. And then for the next 2 years, I sat and watched other comedians work until 2 o'clock in the morning. And that's how it started for me. And
for me, I saw you, Glenn, at Catch.
Oh, well, I went there too about a year and a half later, 2 years later. I
saw you first at Catch, and then I saw Shriner in LA. That's the first time, but I'd seen Shriner on TV and stuff like that. But, I got started in Fort Lauderdale at the comic strip. Ugh, who remembers that place? But,
me.
Well, I do too. But
we all remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was,
they were all fun. They were all great for a while. They were.
Yeah.
They were fun. It was new, it was exciting, and it was wrapped around us.
Well, it was really a bond that you had when you went on the road and you stayed in a condo with 2 or 3 other comics, whether it was in Atlanta at your place, Chris, or anywhere you went, you made friends. I remember I took Jimmy Samuels and some waitress flying to Key West. We had nothing to do that day, and we flew down to Key West.
Wow. Yeah.
And how many comics can say that? Hey, you want to get in my airplane and fly down to Key West?
Well, it wasn't my airplane; it was a rented airplane. Even better.
What were you?
Chris, I'm curious. Chris, when you were managing all these clubs and comics, how many comics did you see that you thought this guy's going to hit it out of the park, or was it always just a numbers game?
Not really. The one that really stands out for me is I was in Montreal and I saw Dave Chappelle the first time that he was in Just for Laughs in Montreal, and in the room were every agent and manager that I think you could put together, every major player that was in one room. And I swear, if we had knives or guns, there would be nobody standing because they were going to cut each other to try and get to the guy. And as it turned out, Barry, oh God, what's Barry's last name? I'm getting old. Anyway, he had already signed him. Nobody knew it. Okay. And he already got him. But I mean, he was just, I mean, at the time, I think he was 18 or 19. And you could just see brilliance. There was no question about it.
There were 2 of those guys. Jim Carrey was one of them too.
Yeah.
Jim Carrey the first time, he just blew the roof off the place.
Well, I saw him in Toronto. I caught him at Yuck Yucks. He was just
that's where I first saw him in Vancouver.
I was working out there for president. He walked in and he was, a lot of guys came out of there, but he was like Robin, man. When Robin Williams first came to the Improv in New York, We didn't know who the hell he was. Went on stage, and man, oh man! And Elaine brought him. Elaine brought him in. I guess they were hanging out together at that time, and she said, "You got to put this guy on. He's every time he goes up at the Comedy Store, and producers are in. He gets the job. So we put him up, and absolutely, you saw that. Carrie, Chappelle, as Chris saw. I mean, you knew, you could feel it.
Yeah. You're listening to Main Street, Gary Allen, your host, with Chris DePetta and Will Schreiner and Mr. Glenn Hirsch, the water guy. The first joke I ever heard him tell, and I still remember to this day, the very first joke. Do you know, you were talking about marijuana had something to do with things, Will? And this is an old joke.
I said it.
Oh, you said it. You said, okay, Glenn. Do you know what the most popular word of my generation and Schreiner's generation was?
Here.
Go ahead.
Here.
Yeah, that's right.
Here. And we used to pass it back and forth in the cab on a Huey. We used to pass it back and forth, and they'd say, "Why aren't you guys winning the war?" Well, gee, I don't know. We're having a great time here. We're having fun. If it wasn't for the war, it would have been a fun place to hang out. I saw the first time I saw Robin. This was a couple of years after he had made his debut in L.A., when Letterman had even said everybody at the comic store was shaken like a leaf because they heard this, English comic? Is that the story, Chris? That everybody spread around that he was an English comic and he came into town and he killed right away. And Letterman always says, well, I guess I'm going to be looking for a new job come Monday morning, because Robin just killed. He just killed.
I don't remember him being English at all. No, I don't.
No, but that was a story that there was this foreign comic come into town, and then I guess eventually, Will, he gravitated down to the Improv because that's where I would see him all the time.
Well, he developed his act up in San Francisco and eventually came down to L.A. when he, before he got Mork and Mindy. But once he was hot with Mork and Mindy, he was in the main room at the store every Monday night, just killing it.
Yeah, if it wasn't for him making a few phone calls to the Groundlings, I would have never got in there. I mean, they were just, and now I guess with the Groundlings guys, and Glenn, you could speak of this, and Will and Chris, I guess unless you're a big time star, you don't get into the Groundlings on any level in any of their troops, correct?
Well, no, you can get in. Here's the thing: you can get in, sign up to pay for the first, the first tier, and then there's the second tier. Then it gets tough. Okay, they'll take your money for a little while, and then you got to get good to keep on going. My son was in it for a little while, and he did two stages of it, and then said, "I'm done with that. That's enough of that. I don't want to do this."
Well, your son is doing pretty well now, Chris. From what I've
he's
heard.
doing okay. I mean, I can't complain, but like anything else, he gets a gig, he's on it for a while, and then when that show ends, he's a starving actor again. I mean,
show business, baby, show business.
Yeah, Will's son is also doing stand up.
Yeah, Nick.
Yeah. He's making money in voiceover. He does a lot of ADR commercials, animation. He works in his closet. He's making good money, and he's built a studio. And there's a lot of guys who are doing that now because my son doesn't drink, so it's tough to be a comic and hang around these clubs all night if you're not drinking. So, so he goes in. He was here for my wedding, got a lot of laughs.
Even with that's great to hear because I don't know how these guys just started today because it's all you talk about. Chris paying to go to the Groundlings. You have to bring your own audience if you want to work at a comedy club these days. It's it's pay to play.
Yeah, that comedy clubs now. It's a whole different world now with the internet and everything else. Because I mean, I'm booking more people that are YouTubers and podcasters and everything else. For one night because they'll bring in an audience. They can bring in 250 people on a Wednesday where nobody else can. So we're booking 3 different podcasters, YouTubers during the week, and then the headliner only works Friday and Saturday normally. So the whole world has changed. I mean, it's dramatic.
Yeah. So it's about followers and it's about views now, right? You can get a job. You can get an audition because if you have 500,000 followers, you'll get an audition whether you know how to act or not these days.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, casting directors will ask you how many followers on your Twitter.
Yeah, is that I'm finding that unbelievable. A friend of my wife is a dancer. She's a 55-year-old dancer. She is a branding genius. She's got silver hair. She's a dancer. She's good looking. She's got 1.5 million followers of from the stuff she does online. She
Wow.
will be opening tomorrow on Broadway, the opening monologue for Chicago. I don't know if you've seen the show.
Yeah.
Somebody would come out and they do a little monologue about what you're about to see. Well, she's getting that opportunity tomorrow, and it's being pushed by ABC. It's remarkable what can be done today when you have followers. I have 150. I'm lucky I'm on your show, Gary.
Nah, come on, listen. It's. I was off the air. Will and Chris will tell you I was off the air for about a year and a half, I think, due to some medical issues, and I'm just now getting back going again. So it is what it is. But thank God I have friends like you that come on this particular program.
No. I'm kidding, but it's a totally different world. Chris, Will, you guys.
Oh, come on, yeah. I mean,
doing it.
Yeah.
Listen, look at it like this. Back when we were all doing comedy and Chris first got going owning the club in Cleveland and down to Atlanta, there wasn't YouTube. There wasn't the social media platforms. And if you weren't funny as a comic in the comedy clubs, you weren't funny. Now, I don't know about some of these YouTube comics, but I can tell you this much. I do not like dirty comics under any circumstances. And yet, Chris, you know who my uncle was. One of the dirtiest comics ever on earth, Tubby Boots. And Will, you know who I'm talking about. I think Glenn, you did too.
I love Tubby Boots, man.
I mean, yeah, I would go into comedy clubs with him in New York. And be, even Bill Maher back in the day, he would, but I do not like dirty comics and these female comics that talk about their sexuality and their whatever. Is that where things have gone? I mean, is there no longer the brain power to be funny anymore? Amy Schumer at least has some humor involved, but and a little bit of dirt. But I don't like dirty comics. Remember the old adage: if you're dirty, you're working in a few places. If you're clean, you're working everywhere.
Right.
Well,
a lot of these YouTubers
from Tom Brady. Did you see the roast on Netflix?
Yeah, that was pretty dirty. I laughed. You got to laugh. I mean, what's her name? Some of the people were very strong with their material. I just wonder, because I hear down here these YouTube comics or these what do you call them? Not YouTube, the TikTok comics come in and they don't have an act, so they get one and done. They never come back because people see them once. They realize they got nothing really to deliver.
Yeah, that's my complaint. What happened? I mean, the good old days when you got up there and it's like what Jerry Seinfeld said the other day. A comedian goes into a comedy club, and we're going to get into that in a little bit. But a comedian gets into a comedy club, and the audience tells him right away, "You're off track here. You better get back doing some other kind of comedy in front of us." What happened to those days? They're gone, I guess.
All I know is that the way it's changed. I mean, I'm a prude, but when I first started, Bud would tell us at the Improv, "You can't do anything on my stage you can't do on television." So who knew what television would become? That's the difference.
Yeah.
I don't know how it was for you, Chris, at the Punchline, but I don't. We didn't really work. Those guys. I mean, Will, we didn't work dirty. We were funny people who found funny in a pair of shoes. Yeah.
Well, Mike Lacey held us all to a tough standard, and that was one of
he did.
Yeah.
One of the
I mean,
did he loosen up though? He had to loosen up just to make money after a while.
Not really. He's still pretty. They're pretty. The Comedy Magic Club has kind of held the line on that. I mean, he lets some things go, but nothing that's crazy. Not at all. I mean, he's been a hard liner that way his whole life.
I remember. Yeah. I remember sitting in the front table. Remember Will and Glenn and Chris at the Improv, the old Improv when Bud had it. Remember that table right in front of that big bay window that would always be opened up? And Jay was sitting in there. Marshall Warfield was sitting there. You were there, Will, one night, and I was sitting at the table. And I remember a young comic said to Jay, "Best advice you can give me, sir." He said, "Don't do dirt. Stay clean. You'll work everywhere." And the guy got up and left, and I don't know whatever happened to him. I don't know what's happened to the business, but I do not like dirty comics. Some of these women get up there, and then some of them are absolutely beautiful. I mean, the one that was on the Brady roast the other night, what's her name?
Nikki
Glaser.
Nikki Glaser. Yeah. I mean, she was on one roast. And she was actually flirting with the guy that used to play for the Lakers, and it was going nowhere. She even talked about it later. She said she approached him after the show, and it was absolutely going nowhere. I want to talk about something that's really important to me. I know it's important to all of us. And Glenn, you brought it up in some of your notes you sent me, the things that you missed with your family being in our crazy business. You guys want to talk about it?
Well, sure. I mean, we were other people's entertainment. We were other people's vacation. We were, but nobody put a gun to my head to make me do it. I chose to do it. I enjoyed doing it for the longest time. I didn't have a kid till I was 40 years old. I mean, I would have left my daughter on the top of my car and driven away earlier in my life. So, I look back now, and when I came home, I probably missed opportunity after opportunity because I would have rather, after being on the road and being away for so long, I came home and I just wanted to be home and spend time at home. And, I have no regrets. I really don't. I judge my success by the fact that I would drive opposite of traffic. That's how I judged it.
Yeah.
And that's how it worked for me. My freedom was that. Yeah, there's ups and downs in everybody's life, but that was it for me. I look back now, and if I have any regrets, it's that I missed things, in terms of people that I cared the most about. That's all. But I don't have any regret about doing what I did in that sense.
Yeah. Will?
Just that one appearance at the Punchline in Atlanta is really one of my regrets. You know who opened? You know who was the middle?
Strangely
you
enough,
know who was the middle for me down there, Chris? Was what's her name? Jenny Jones.
Jenny Jones? Oh,
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, I can imagine spending a week in that condo with her.
Oh, God Almighty! Is she still alive anymore, or did she go away along with that talk
for
show?
a long time? Yeah,
I'm not sure.
Oh, wow.
I don't know what happened to her after her show got off the air. She kind of disappeared. I tried to get in touch with her once or twice. She had one of the most interesting stories. Her first husband was a pornographer in Atlanta. He had his partner. I think he got killed. Yeah, he got killed. And that's she was a widow. But that's her. There was a famous pornographer in Atlanta, and he was partners with him. And Jenny got caught at the Atlanta airport with a gun coming in, going on the plane. So she was an interesting character. She really, really was.
I met her at the Castle in Detroit, where she was originally from, I believe.
Yeah, she's a beautiful woman, but boy,
beautiful.
That show went really down very, 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 very quickly.
Lasted longer than mine, I'll tell you that.
But Will, you still hold the record for being on a Tonight Show with Carson and Leno and Dave.
Cumulatively, I have a lot of shows, but I remember in Atlanta, we went to Pat Paulson was hanging out with us at some bar.
Yes.
You guys took us to some bar, and we all had way too many cocktails, and then left us for dead to get home. This was before Uber, and I said, "I'm not driving my rental car back." And they said, "Don't do that. There's police checkpoints everywhere." So we got a cab and went home.
Absolutely.
All my
he was the first star I'd ever been around, and strangely enough, Dave picked him up at the airport, and I was going to meet Dave later on, and so Dave took him to his apartment. Okay, and Pat said, "Well, let's have some wine." So I called Dave about 2 hours later at his house. I said, "Hey man, what's Pat Paulson like?" Because he was a big star. To me, and I said, "Was he easy to get along with you?" And Dave goes, "Well, I got to tell you something. Right now, he's passed out on my couch. So yeah, he's a big star." Okay, well, sweet guy, man, really liked him a lot.
Pat Paulson said he's the first person who ever said to me, Glenn, we were driving somewhere and it was him, me, and two other people in the car. He said, Glenn, if we get into a car accident, you know what the headline's going to read? Pat Paulson and 3 others killed in car accident. It was a funny guy.
Oh God, that's funny. I got to tell you, but when was the last time, Chris, you saw somebody, or you guys in general, you saw somebody and you thought, "Oh, this guy's going to hit a home run every time"? Will kind of asked that earlier. This guy's going to hit a home run, or this young lady's going to hit a home run And then the next time you saw him, you went, boy, was I wrong.
Oh, that's
Oh,
comedy. man. Yeah, that's comedy. That's stand-up.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's tough
you know,
to say.
even Leno, even Robin had a tough time sometimes. It's
Yeah,
Oh,
nobody hits 100%. That's for sure.
no, absolutely.
No.
Seinfeld still talks about some freaking heckler he had 25 years ago.
Yeah.
Seinfeld.
You guys, not for anything.
Yeah.
You guys never talk about great shows. I can see, you know, I do this with Gardell all the time. He'll kill 5 shows. And if he's doing a week at a club, kill 5 shows. The one show that, that just did not go well is the only show he'll talk about.
Absolutely. We all remember the bad review. The great ones we don't remember.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, and you can't take that for granted. I mean, I did a show in Montreal once. I had one of the great nights of my life, to the point where I had the audience put the chairs up on the table and we swept the place and we all left together. The next night, I thought I'm the greatest fucking comedian on planet. I walk in with that same attitude from the night before. These people weren't there the night before. Again, I should have called in my own bomb scare for that one. I learned my lesson. You know, you learn lessons from making mistakes. When you fail,
Right.
you might learn. You don't learn from success. I don't think.
I was going to
Yeah.
say Gardell was just here in Boca last week, I think.
Right.
How's he like being back out on the road? Or
That was his first show in 3 years that he did in Boca, and he was scared to death. I mean, he was like before the show saying, "Man, I don't know if I remember anything." You know, I mean, he's got some new stuff, but he had to do a lot of old stuff too, and he also lost 150 pounds, so he looks like
it is. I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure everybody agrees. It's one of those things. If you don't do it for a while, you lose your chops. You lose your timing. I just did a big thing at Indian Creek, which is a billionaire bunker, and I only had to do 10 minutes of comedy in an auction. But I was nervous as shit. I was like, I'm like,
What?
God, I hadn't done this in about a year. I get up every once in a while at my club and do something, but I don't go. I'm not on the road anymore. Nor do I want to.
Wait a minute. What club? You mean the yacht club?
Yeah, the yacht club. I get it. We have a group of guys, and they get me up and make me tell some jokes and be funny. But no, I mean just to go out with strangers and do your act. A friend of mine saw Ferguson. He saw a second show Friday here at the Dania Beach Improv. Said he struggled, and I'm sure he hasn't been doing it much. And you got to you definitely, it's a muscle that you got to keep oiled.
Where's the Improv in Dania Beach?
Right by the airport. It's a nice room, 300-seat room, very nice.
Wow.
Is it on the north side of the airport or the south side?
It's on the south side of the airport, inside 595, where Boomers used to be.
Oh, okay. All right. And the reason I know that is because Will knows I grew up down there. I mean, Will and I both grew up in South Florida. It's pretty much one question I've always wanted to ask, and Chris, you can chime in on this too. The night you got the phone call from Carson's producer, hey, you're going to be on the show tomorrow night or Wednesday night or Thursday night. What was that like for you? Now, Glenn, I saw him after his first appearance on the Tonight Show, but what was it like for you, Will? You did it so many times, but what was it like the first night when you got that call? Hey, Shriner, you're going to be on the show tomorrow night.
Well, my very first talk show was the Merv Griffin show, which I'm sure everybody remembers. And I got a call from, I forget the booker, it's Don Kane, I think was his name. And he called me up. He says, hey, I know you've been wanting to do the show. Can you do the show? And I said, yeah, when? He goes, can you be here in 3 hours? It was like 1 o'clock. And can you be here for the 4:30 show? I'm like, yeah, why not? Let's go.
Will, did you ever do the Pat Sajak show when he had his own talk show for about 3.5 minutes?
No, I remember the Pat Sajak show. I had his old office when I was doing my invention show.
I
knew Pat. I knew Pat well. Pat and I competed for a show called Television Inside It Out with Rona Barrett and Sigourney Weaver's dad, Pat Weaver. And I beat Pat out because he was just a weatherman. And I said, you want a weatherman? You want a real comedy talent? And so I got it lasted 5 episodes.
But you had the 5.
So I don't know if he was bitter. Yeah. I don't know if I never did the Sajak talk show though.
Yeah. I did it a couple times. And the second time I did it, for some reason they were trying everything. They took it on the road to Universal Theater, Universal Studios. I'm talking about the amusement park.
Yeah.
I did a freaking show on an island in front of a freaking fake mountain. I don't know what ride it was. And the audience was sitting on the other side of the moat. And I'm working for 5 minutes. I mean, look, I'm a guy who could never say no anyway for the few opportunities I would get. So I did everything, but that was a nightmare. That was a nightmare. Yeah. And then I did the Griffin show. That was fun. That was a fun time. It was nice to me.
What was it like when you got the phone call for the Tonight Show? Because I remember seeing you the night you came into the Improv from that.
For me, it was a fun time, and it was an exciting time, as I mean, you can imagine. And I remember I had balls. I had New York balls. I remember right before Carson was going out to do his monologue, right behind the curtain. I walk by and I say, "Warm him up, John." And he looked at me. He said, "I'll do my best, but if I bomb, you're on your own." So, that's what he said to me. That's what he left me with. But it was everything was exciting. Everything was exciting.
But that was the goal back then, to be on the Tonight Show or to be on with Merv or to eventually
not so
be
much
on
for
with
me.
David.
Not so much for me. I was in it just to get away from doing anything else but what I wanted to do. I loved going on the road. I did. And, I was pigeonholed. I mean, Will got his opportunities and he made the best of it. He did. He deserved it. Chris and Billy and the clubs. For me, I was a road warrior. I really was. I mean, I had some great gigs. I toured with a lot of great people, and that was it for me. I didn't think any higher. And again, no regrets. I made my choice. But I missed stuff, and I wanted to come home and spend time with my family, and I should have been making the rounds, doing my thing. And I'm good. But when you said, Will, that you worked for a year and it's hard, and if you don't do it, you lose something, it's true. I was sick for a year, and I went and did, I got a contract to do a show. I swear to you, I worked for 6 months for that one show where in the old days, if I had, a comedy club, you do 8 shows in a week. I would get up that morning, I'd make a set list, and I'd go and do it. I had to work every day, memorizing, thinking, writing. For one show, I had 6 months to prepare for it. I don't know if I could do it again. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, they do that with the Academy Awards now. It's like if you talk to Kimmel or anybody, it's like months out that they're writing for it. Just to make sure they get everything right, and then they tune it up as they move forward. But the one thing that I always thought both of you would end up would be on Saturday Night Live.
No, me?
Yeah, both of you.
Well, if I had to do it over again, I would go to the Groundlings. Chris had a better chance than me.
Strangely enough, they called me.
But to me, I would have done the Groundlings. I would have gone to Chicago and worked there because I enjoyed that. I never took it seriously, though. I mean, stand-up is another that took all my time and effort. And, I was up for a television show way back when out here, Paramount. And I was up against, it was me against Sam Kinison. Now you can imagine, right? It was a character that I played. And obviously he got the job. Next week, I got called in for another television show. I'm sitting there and Phil, he was on Laverne and Shirley, the father, Phil. Anybody else?
Foster.
Phil Foster.
Yeah.
Once told me, Glenn, if you hang around long enough, the job, the part will come up for you, right? Because that was his thing. So I'm sitting in the office at I think it was NBC. It was at least Paramount. And the woman across the table, casting lady, says, "We got this show. It's about an ethnic from New York." I'm thinking, ding, 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 who has Jewish mother's syndrome and suffers from guilt. I'm thinking, this is it. Phil's right.
Yeah.
They look at me and they say, the woman looks at me and she says, "We want you to read the part of the Irish guy." That was it. That's it. I went back on the road for 7 years. I dug a hole. I crawled under that rock and I was gone because I thought, this is ridiculous. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was my story.
Yeah, I mean, some of the casting people would drive you crazy. You'd go before them. You'd sit there. I mean, when I was trying to do voiceover work, Will, in L.A., I would get something every now and then. I auditioned for the Muppet Babies. I auditioned for this one. I did a few things for Henson, but because I could do Cookie Monster and all that other stuff. But my main competition back then was a guy named Dave Coulier, and he was getting everything in town. Dave was getting everything that moved. You know, I don't know what it's like now. And I have some voiceover friends, but they're constantly in front of the computer all day long, auditioning. And the whole business has changed so drastically. Chris, are there a lot of comedy clubs still around anymore, or is it dwindled down to?
The comedy clubs are they're doing great. I mean, the Improvs keep opening up rooms. Funny Bone's still around. Helium is another group that's really starting to grow. So there's a ton of independent rooms and smaller rooms all around different cities. So there's a lot of comedy being done. What's happening now is there's so many clubs. We've taken away so many of the headliners in the clubs. They've all moved over to theaters because of the internet. So we're looking for a new crew about every 2 years to fill about 20 weeks of material. I mean, we need more comics that are good.
Really?
Yeah.
But there's the key. Good.
Yeah,
you
good.
Need more good. Good.
Yeah, good.
That's the key to it. Good.
As soon as somebody sells out our club for the week, let's say they fill it up on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Right. I never see them again during concert. The next time they're in the city, they don't come back like they used to. Guys used to come back, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, and sell it out every time. You used to wait for them to come back. You get real excited to have these people come back. What doesn't happen?
Is it because of their online presence? And it's because of the online presence? That's it.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. So is Billy doing theaters? He's not doing clubs.
No, not now. He's practicing. He's working, he's working clubs to just, get his chops back. Right. And what'll happen is he'll wind up doing corporates and casinos for a while. And then he stayed away from the internet. And now we're going to go to the internet and see if we can make this happen.
Because there's a guy who deserves the theater because of the work and his background and what he's done and what he's become. Yeah. And, these YouTube guys, I don't know.
I don't know.
I see
a TV show. Really, that's what we want.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. I'm trying to work small. I'm trying to work smaller and smaller rooms. I'm down to like 4-person rooms.
That's good. It's good. It's good to work a table. It's good to work a table
and food.
That's a luncheon at the yacht club for Will.
Exactly.
That's the close-up magic when you're doing comedy instead.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. We got about 5 minutes because I told Schreiner I'd get him out of here at 4:30, and my producer has to skidoo.
I gotta go back and see that. I gotta go back to the hospital anyway.
They're seating 2 people right now, so my show's in a minute.
Yeah. Listen, for the three of you, looking back at your life, and you look at who you are now, what you've done, where you've been, what kind of advice would you give the young Will Schreiner, the young Glenn Hirsch, the young Chris DiPetta, if you could look back and talk to those young people today? What advice would you give them?
I would say to the young Will Schreiner, give me that lunch money you have in your pocket. Right now, you hear me?
My decision was I was getting divorced at the time. I took any job that came along. Don't be selective. Just say yes. And, when Letterman took me to New York to write and be on the morning show, that was a big opening career. And people were like, why are you going to New York? And I'm like, why not? I love Dave. And it turned to be a great opportunity. Opportunities come and come and come. My daughter's first job in show business was working with Billy on Mike and Molly, and she sends her love, and she's with child. So life changes quickly. You got to make the most of it.
Yeah, life changes quickly. Yeah, I would just say it's all about stage time.
I found this on the web for Lego. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Check it out.
Okay, I will. Well, my computer's talking to me. Anyway,
that's good.
What I would somebody's at least talking to
No, what I would do.
I'm with Greg. I'm with Glenn. I mean, just get on stage as much as you can if you're
stage time. Mistakes. I don't know how they do it now, but it's all about stage time.
Chris,
always. My advice would be, instead of spending that money on cocaine, invest in Apple.
I'm with you. Somebody once pointed that out to me, Chris. You'll get a kick out. Will, you'll understand it too. somebody once said, an actor's house, you'll go into their house, you'll see pictures of the actor on the wall with other actors or in movies he's been in. You go to a producer's house, on the wall, you'll see Picasso's, Van Gogh's. Yeah, it's a different world there. You know, if you can get into that world, absolutely.
Yeah, and if you own your own property, if you're the owner, if you have the writers for music, you know, if you're the writer and you own it, you know, the more you own, the better off you are, you know. But
I don't want no landlord. I don't want no landlord.
Hey, listen, I want to thank you three. You guys have been friends of mine for so many years. I love you, the three of you, very, very much. Shriner and we're aviation nuts. Glenn Hirsch, I love you with all my heart. I will say a prayer for your brother tonight. Chris DePetta, you know I love you. You know that without even me saying anything. And I hope to have you back at some point or another. But Shriner's got to get his butt out of here. Glenn Hirsch has got to go. Chris DePetta's got to go. I just want to thank the Japanese Gardens for their continued support, as well as the Elks Lodges of South Florida. Thank you all very much. We're going to have a great show back next week with Frankie and his wife, Lisa. He was the Golden Globe and Academy Award winning writer for Hungry Eyes and for Dirty Dancing. So join us next week right here on Main Street with Gary Allen. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.
Will, Chris, take care.
You too. Take care, guys. Bye.